Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Community Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lee. Thank you for joining me once again. So many podcasts out there, and I so appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with me. Today we're chatting with James Stewart and Brian Clements, and we're learning about the Bremners Winter Vancouver Vertical Kilometre series taking place here at home in British Columbia. The climbing series is free to enter, which is super cool, and they reward not just the fastest climber, but descending counts, and so does the amount of efforts you put in. The series sounds like a lot of fun, and these two are really excited to spread the word about it. Only a little bit of housekeeping first. I know I promised another race director answering our question. Good news is that's still coming and more. Mike LaBelle is going to join us. He's going to chat all about a brand new race as well as answer that Ask Adam question. Can't wait for that. Also, I have a link to the Discord channel. Join us there. But today we're chatting vertical kilometers. Today's guests are James Stewart and Brian Clements, and we're talking about the Bremners Winter Vancouver Vertical Kilometre Series. The duo hosted a summer series for the past few years, and they had so much fun doing it. They're breaking out a winter version this year, which officially just started November 18th. James, Brian, thank you for taking the time today.
No worries. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, wonderful to be here.
I'm very excited for the episode. James, you're an accomplished ultra runner and coach, and Brian, you're no slouch when it comes to running trails either. The two of you clearly have a passion for this. Before we get into how you hooked up, let's start at the very beginning. Brian, tell us what a VK Challenge is all about and how the Bremners version works.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, in basic terms, vertical KM race or vertical kilometer race, what we're calling as a VK, is essentially an uphill mountain running race that ascends 1,000 vertical meters in the shortest distance possible. It isn't that old of a concept. It was invented in 1994, and
Okay.
it does have a certification by the International Skyrunning Federation. And to be officially certified in this, it has to, like I said, climb 1,000 meters, but it has to be in less than 5 kilometers. And if I could relate a bit of my experience in the series, we just started it last year. The first time, it was an amazing experience for me, and I actually, quite frankly, didn't know what I was getting myself into. There's such a diversity of courses with what the 20 courses, the summer course that we put on. Different terrains, elevation profiles, technicality, route finding, and just the mountainous conditions. In my mind, I was never going to compete for course records. So my primary focus for the series was doing high volume of courses and primarily just seeking adventure with friends, right? Mm-hmm. The trail community is like an extended family to me. But what I found is doing all that, my fitness skyrocketed, all while improving my performance. And much of the performance that can be attributed to James and his coaching, because he's also my coach.
Well, that's a nice little dip into your background there, and I think you've described a little bit how you and James hooked up. James, what made you want to start the series to begin with?
So when I started trail running 15 years ago, I had a really bad back injury and a badly damaged knee. And all I could do was run uphill and basically hobble back down for the first few years.
Oh, geez.
So the uphill part was a big salvation for me because it was the only thing that really started to improve my chronic back pain issues that I'd long suffered. And I just got addicted to this process of running fast directly up mountains simply because it's all I could do. So over time, the hobbling downhill also improved my knee. And eventually I was able to progress into trail running competitively. And then fast forward about 7 years later, I was standing on the start line in Europe against, the fastest trail runners in the world in the vertical kilometre skyrunning series there. 2 days after I did the VK race in Chamonix, there's another famous race there called the Mont Blanc Marathon. And I decided to enter the race just for a fun experience. And I'd only done VK style training in the 9 months leading up. So basically no long runs. I think I'd only finished about one trail marathon before at that point, and I ended up coming 21st out of 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a strong field that day, and I was really surprised with how well I did. I did fade late in the race, as you would expect, with no long run training, but it really opened my eyes to just how powerful training for vertical kilometers could make an athlete. And this really stuck in my mind for a long period of time. Just prior to that racing season in 2015, I'd stopped by Vancouver just to run the Grouse Grind, so this famous uphill trail in North Vancouver. And without this trail being there, I probably never would have stopped by Vancouver at all. And I really love the trail, and it's unique and really different to those grass slopes in Europe. You know, I saw there was a community of runners here that are interested in like uphill kind of style training, which I hadn't experienced anywhere else in North America. And I really saw the potential in Vancouver, and I hoped to return, which I did 2 years later. So after that 2015 season racing in Europe in the VKs, I did lose interest in the competition side of running. And I just spent my time traveling, exploring the Alps, Asia, and North America with my camera. And I learned during this period the value of building a big aerobic base off the back of a strong vertical focus base. And I had that itch in the back of my mind about that experience in the Mont Blanc Marathon. And I really wanted to move the focus of my career into trail running coaching as a profession. So as a nomad traveler for many years, I set up a base in Vancouver, but I still kept going to Europe for my summer trips. But I definitely enjoyed the winter running opportunities here that Vancouver presented. Basically, in 2019, I did the multi-grouse grind challenge, which I climbed the trail 18 times in 19 hours.
Oh, wow.
Which passed the previous record of 17 times in a day. And that was something like 15,000 vertical meters. And we have a tram here that can take you to the bottom. So it was uphill only day. And I kind of fell back in love with the vertical aspect of training during that process. There really wasn't any other uphill only races here in Vancouver, definitely no VK races. And so I started cataloging routes that could work here. And, you know, as I said, Vancouver is very technical terrain compared to that in Europe. And so the uphill routes kind of stand on their own as kind of a different sport, really. So my results at the multi-grind started to bring me coaching clients interested in vertical style training. And I started training them for the multi-grind event in 2020, but then the pandemic hit and everything was cancelled. So at that time, like vertical style races were starting to take off that year. And I felt that VK racing was well suited to the virtual concept, since most VK races are run in time trial format anyway. And it's definitely a style of running where you're racing yourself against the clock more than other competitors. I think Vancouver is really fortunate to be one of the only locations in North America suited to VKs. And I wanted to bring a race format to North America that could slowly develop here. And that meant the race had to be virtual for a while because there just isn't enough interest in it to make in-person races viable. And, you know, we have a lot of courses and permitting here is quite a nightmare. So I didn't know if it was just going to be a 2020 thing, but we've had about 60 people sign up for the first 2 years in the summer series. And I think it's proving to be a successful concept. And we're hoping to bring like an in-person championship race this summer. And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
That would be super cool. Brian, James just touched on it. It's been virtual. It sounds like the feedback's been pretty good. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the winter one. You mentioned that there was 20 some odd options in the summer. How many do you guys have for the winter, and how many people have you had sign up so far?
We've shrank it a bit. It's 5 courses, but has 15 segments to it.
Nice.
Okay. You know, James collects a hell of a lot of emails because we're constantly asking for feedback on the series. You know, we get people from saying it's unique, it's challenging, harder than I expected, easier than I expected. I didn't know all these trails existed in Vancouver. So responses have been great. And James already mentioned that we're going to hopefully have an in-person competition on, the name of the course is Completely Necessary, which is on Mount Unnecessary. So we're looking forward to that one.
That sounds great. It'd be super cool if you guys could get together in person. Brian, just kind of set you up, James, to sort of break down how your vertical challenge works, because I know it's not all about the fastest times, and that was important to you as well.
A lot of people are kind of intimidated by the fast times that other people post. And this has caused them either to not compete, or actually some of the people were actually competing in private and not submitting their times to the series. So, I mean, as a coach, I'd always recommend to athletes not to compare themselves with others, but I guess that's kind of human nature a little bit. But if you're going to do it, I guess at least use other people to inspire you to get out there and do it by example. And I think Brian's a great example to follow. You know, obviously there's only going to be a handful of people capable of setting the fastest times. And I've tried to make it like an inclusive event where it's not just about fast times. And then I think that's where Brian's achievements come into it a bit here, because Brian, with his huge basketball forward frames, not your typical style VK athlete who'd normally be really light and lean. Brian's an incredible athlete, but he's not ever going to be setting the fastest times. But he's more than capable of doing like 50 or more VKs over a 4-month stretch, no problem. His power to rate ratio is really insane. So I guess I was thinking about how do I reward someone like Brian and keep him interested in the series. So with the power ranking format we have, it's just the way that we reward people who put the most effort into the series, and we give them rewards and challenges to aim for. And that has actually spurned forward some really epic feats of endurance, particularly last summer. Like Brian knocked off a few days where he was doing triple vertical kilometre days in really gruesome backcountry terrain. And I think last summer, most people competing were just really focused on checking off the 20 courses, and the power ranking competition actually got more interest than the fast side of things. So I think the best feedback is coming about, just the experience that the series offers people. And I just really wanted people to engage in a community of like-minded people and see VKs for what they are. Like, it's a really, really useful training tool that makes you a better athlete no matter what your core focus is on. As Brian can attest to, it's brought a lot of people together for shared experiences as well.
That's kind of the coolest thing about trail running for sure, is getting out there with the community. Brian, sounds like you're out there a lot. What are you looking forward to most about the winter version?
Oh, well, if you got another hour, it's no, I mean, if I could break that down into just a few buckets, I'm an extremely competitive guy, and, the competitive opportunity to just continue training into the winter months, and to have a comparative with other athletes, but, also even challenging yourself. And, we live in the best mountains in the world, at least my experience so far. But just to maintain being in this environment, that's the passion. That's, just doing it with friends and the Bremner teammates. We're part of the Bremners running team, which is, we like to run, we like to eat, and we like to do things together. So it's just an awesome concept.
Nothing wrong with that. James, it's a great chance for you to obviously get your coaching word out there too, which is super cool. What are you looking forward to most about the winter version? And maybe give us an idea of what some sort of times or records or anything you might expect is going to roll in this winter.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting series because winter always throws curveballs in terms of, the conditions that are out there. It's constantly changing between, new snowfall and soft pack, and then it doesn't snow for a while, it turns into hard pack and ice. And so I think the athletes in the series are just going to have to use their experience to select the right times when they go for their efforts, especially if they're going for fast times.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in terms of times, like the world records in VKs sit just under 30 minutes in Europe, but Vancouver, our terrain's like way more technical, so it's pretty difficult to get anywhere south of 40 minutes on any of our courses. And, every course is different, it has its own personality. So, anything under an hour is really impressive. And, between like 50 minutes and an hour 20 is where most people tend to land. But we've had people going over 2 hours. And, like I said, I don't think time matters that much. What matters is if you're improving personally, and anyone who can climb 1,000 meters should be proud of themselves. And I think are doing better than most people. So, yeah, just get out there and have fun. And, in winter, you need a little bit of experience, but I think this series will also help people develop experience as well, because it's on the established winter trails. There's lots of people out there snowshoeing, and just chose courses of this series that are going to be safe for our competitors and are well commuted.
And I did notice a main point on your website was telling people to follow the BC Adventure Smart information and trip planning and all that. Very good advice, obviously. Please tell us where people can find out more about this series, where they can sign up, get involved.
All right, so verticalkm.ca is our website. And we also have a hashtag that you can use on Strava or Instagram, Facebook. It was Vancouver VK. And my coaching is at couchtothesummit.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Couch to the Summit, all one word. And I'm also on YouTube too. Just type in Couch to the Summit on there.
Thank you so much, Brian. Where can people follow your crazy trip up and down the mountain a bunch of times this winter?
Yeah, well, I'm not that much on social media, but you can find me on Strava under my name, Brian Clements. And that's it for now.
Fantastic. Huge thank you to Brian and James both for being here today. Huge thank you to everyone listening. Shout out to race volunteers everywhere. And until next time, I'm Adam Lee, and this is Community Trail Running.